This is part two, if you actually watch part one. But anyways, heading back to America. I haven't lived there in a while, so I like. I had a job that afforded me the highly dangerous job that when I had time off, I could travel around the states and stuff. So I've been around quite a bit, driven in, and not a lot of time in the main type of Washington D.C., New York area, but a lot of other places I visited in the states, and it was a really really beautiful country, and I got to visit a lot of places and everything, and it was relatively safe and it was stable. And like I could go to Santa Monica Beach and spend the night on the beach and have a campfire. I'm old. I mean, I registered for the draft. I never ended up going in. I think I missed it by a few months of getting drafted. But I remember when you could kind of drive around LA a little bit, and you could, the traffic wasn't so bad. The smog might have been a little worse. And you could like camp in Santa Monica on the beach and do the barbecue thing and get stoned and go surfing and all that. And Simi Valley wasn't even developed back then. It was like tract housing. And Venice Beach, same thing. It was just like a bunch of college kids running around partying and getting stoned in swimsuits, and it was like a paradise. It was a very nice place to live, that part of the U.S. And then it just became just like the drug infestation just took over. I guess, there's so much propaganda because, you know, the mainstream media controls everything right now in the country. I've been out of the country for a while, so I'm reflecting of what the country will be like when I get back in, but I basically know it's like, but most of the freaking crime from any cop that I've ever talked to is drug related. Most of the robberies and thefts and carjackings and stuff, I mean, in some cases it might be really, really poor people trying to get a bite to eat, but 9 times out of 10, from I've talked to prosecutors and attorneys and frickin' cops, and it's drugs trying to support the habit and also the behavior that goes along with the drugs has basically trashed the country. I remember other places I could go to in Seattle and Montana and Idaho and Oregon and other parts of California and the Midwest, and it's basically everywhere has just changed into this big frickin' crime-ridden, gun-ridden, drug addict-ridden place. And I'm not against drugs. Really, I mean, I can't be. It would be contradictory. My parents placed me on drugs at 5 years old. I grew up in an upper middle class area my parents were basically drug dealers, predominantly my father, and there was drug deals going on all the time when I grew up. So that was pretty much normal. I mean, I remember back in the days when it just wasn't stinky green bud like it is now. I mean, you could get Cambodian red that was really from Cambodia. You could get Thai stick that was really from Thailand. You could get Afghani hash, which you can still get that now. You know, that had opium. It was dark on the outsides and green on the insides. You could almost get diazepam over the counter. You know, and Demerol and Percodan and morphine and all that other stuff. And you know, so what are we doing here? So, I'm not really. I had to fucking do this. There. So, you know, it's you know, it's become a drug infested freaking. And then part of the craziness too, I mean, aside from the drugs and all that, was they used to keep people in mental hospitals. And then they did legislation where they thought they could save a bunch of dollars by letting people out that belong in mental hospitals on the street. And so then that exacerbated the homeless problem everywhere and people that are crazy walking around on the streets and everywhere and everything. And so that's part of the problem, the crime-ridden, whacked-out country that it's become. That it wasn't 30, 40 years ago when I could camp on Santa Monica Beach or some other beach in Washington or Park when the parks were actually free. And fish were in the water. And the thing with drugs is, you know, like I said, I can't be against them because I was raised in a drug-dealing family. The problem with drugs is that they're not fucking legal. That's the problem. They're working on it. With the bud, they're dealing with it and they're legalizing it. And I think this stuff should all be legal because from growing up in that environment and seeing it all the time and being around it, I mean, most of the people either dealt with it responsibly, they went insane, they went in a mental institution, they did something weird when they were on them, and they wound up in jail or committed suicide or wrecked a car. You know, but they would self-destruct, and or they would get off them, or they would manage it or whatever. They would deal with it. But with the current system the way it is, it's just a big freaking racket. You know, it's just about throwing people in jail. And a lot of them have mental problems, you know, and they have to do drugs to cope. And I can kind of understand that. I mean, a lot of freaking people that were involved in wars to cope with their PTSD, they had to take drugs. And unfortunately, the drugs that the Psychiatric Association gives you for PTSD, most of them are all the wrong ones, from what I know. There's good old drugs that work just fine to help deal with the PTSD. So I don't, you know, I know why they're illegal. It's so that the corrupt people that are running the jail racket and the legal racket and all that system that are profiteering from that terrorism or warfare in the United States. And that is exactly what it is it's terrorism with collateral damage. You know, if you legalized it, the people would frickin' take themselves out, or they would deal with it some way. But where it becomes terrorism is when people can't support their frickin' habit. And I've seen mothers, this is how powerful drugs are. I've seen mothers give their kids up, sell their kids, and that's about the strongest instinct that the human animal has, is the parenting of a child. And to abandon all of that for addiction shows there's no more powerful statement to show how powerful the addiction can be. And you're never, ever, ever going to get rid of them. It's not going to happen. So you might as well legalize it. It's just the regimes, and, you know, we don't need to go into this much. And you know, I'm not alone in this. Most of the population, if presented in the right way, would probably understand this. If people are going to wind up on them or find them or whatever, whether they're abundant or not, they will. They just have throughout history. Ever since man first crushed grapes, or, I don't know, ate some type of fruit that had a high alcohol content, or plant, or whatever, or mushroom. But that's basically just for contrast the country. Unstabilized it. So there's no more camping out on Santa Monica Beach like I did 30 plus years ago. Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame because of that. That's the main thing that's just really trashing the country. And destabilizing it. And it's not, it's simply because it's illegal. It's just a big frickin' racket. And anybody that has any common sense can see that, because the legal system, the jail system, all the profiteers, the people that are selling the stuff, all the people that are making bank off it, don't want to frickin' lose their jobs. You know, they want employment security, but when it comes at the price of destroying your own citizens, the productivity of your citizens, the stability of your citizens, the stability of your society, you know, it's no different than